right, stand by. Roll sound.
Speed.
Roll camera.
Speeding.
Slate.
Scene 1, take 1. Mark.
And action. Hey everybody, how you doing? Here we are, Friday at 2 o'clock, Burnie's Applebox. Today, and I know I say this a lot, but today I'm really excited. We got my good buddy, John DeTarsio. How you doing, John?
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh,
I'm so honored.
My pleasure.
Don't deserve this seat right here.
Oh, you do, my friend. You actually deserve this one, but I'm in it right now, so you'll have to stay over there. Hey, John is somebody who I have known, and I've known you so long I can't even remember. A dozen years easily.
And we're definitely in the 2 digits.
Yes, absolutely, into the 2 digits. John is somebody I've worked with in San Diego and around for a long time. He was a one-man band when I met him, and he had the most, I was in a van at the time I was gaffing. He had the most amazing van that I had ever seen. This thing was so compartmentalized. It was just perfect. He could do huge shoots. I mean, 60-minute shoots, 48 hours, those type of things. Dateline. Sorry, I forgot that one. But he could do these shoots out of just one van, and it just blew my mind. Then I worked with him on a set, and I realized what a lighting genius the guy was, and he came in and just knocked it out. So he's been a great, great friend for a long time. You may recognize John, actually. He is one of the most photographed DPs on TV because he works on the hit show, MTV's Catfish. And we're going to talk about that a lot and everything. But John, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for those nice words.
Oh, I got more.
You are my hero.
Oh.
Just so everyone knows, you are my hero. And it's always an honor to work with you. I've learned so much from you.
Very kind, very kind. Too kind, as a matter of fact.
But anybody that knows Burnie knows I'm not exactly.
You're a nice guy. Thank you, thank you. But you know, John, one of the things that, I've wanted you on here for a long time because you're such, in my mind, such a great example of what it is and what it takes and pulling it off seemingly with no fuss or muss, being a DP. And having been on set with you doing a Catfish, we did the recreations together, that was something I saw how you worked on that show. So it was very...
Could have never done that show without you, by the way.
Well, listen, my friend.
Never would
What
happen.
you were doing with the cameras and as fast as you work, where your selections on light placement, all of that were so fast and efficient. It was just really, really something to work with you, and it was really great. But the thing that, and I want to start out where you came from and all that, but I really want to delve in for a little while and a little later in the show on Catfish and how you get all of that done and how you're incorporated into the show.
Great.
Awesome.
Great. So what can I tell you about the show? I mean,
Let's go back a little bit. Tell me about, where'd you grow up?
Well, I am a military brat, Army
Okay.
brat. My dad was in the Army. He was in the Korean War. And so shortly after that war ended, he got reassigned to Korea, met my mother, married a Korean. My father is an immigrant from Italy. My mom's Korean.
Geez, that would make just about the United States if you came from
and
both
I'm
sides,
American.
right?
I tell you, it doesn't take long to become American. And he chose assignments overseas, and so I grew up a kid growing up overseas. So and they eventually moved to the States. I eventually went to college in Arizona,
Okay.
and then kind of migrated out west. But yeah, I'm
So while you were
unusual
growing up,
up.
yeah, you got to see a big portion of the world,
Yep,
I guess.
sure
What
did.
what
We traveled a
countries?
lot.
What
I
countries?
was made in Japan.
Okay. All right.
Lived in Japan, Okinawa, Korea. But you know, back then it was really easy to travel if you were a part of the military. I think they still do this, but my family loved traveling, and we would do what was called space available, where you can go to the airport and just jump on a cargo plane, where
Oh my
if there was an open
gosh.
seat, and we'd just jump and you know, maybe come to the States with 1 week off and just kind of hang out.
Wow.
Yeah, so wherever a military base was, like here in California, was Travis Air Force Base.
Sure.
If we got a flight, we'd go. Sometimes we'd get a flight back when I was a kid. It was hard to have a plane to go all the way, so you'd always have to kind of stop in Hawaii. We ended up in Hawaii for
Tough
like
luck.
2 days.
Tough luck,
couldn't get a
man.
flight out.
Yeah.
No, we definitely saw a lot of the world.
Oh, that's great. Was that? I mean, do you feel like compared to if you would have just grown up in the States, you feel that really widened
I mean, I
your
do
life
now.
experience?
When I was
Yeah.
a kid, it was just
Like you kinda-
always woe was me because we were always moving. You know,
Yeah.
it was like, I just made my friends and now
Yeah.
we're moving. But it was just normal. But the older I got, the more I realized how much that all those experiences and all these cultures and have really helped me with my career and working with people and
Sure.
understanding and not judging, you know what I mean? And just you understand that there are all kinds of different people when you're out there
Right.
traveling in the world.
Right.
And
And that-
catfish as well. I mean, we're all over. I mean, we have been international, but mostly all over in the United States. Many of these places, most Americans don't go to unless you're driving by on your way to another town, because unless you have family, you're probably not going to stop in many of these towns. And yes, we're all Americans, but I mean, there are so many cultural differences.
So much
and
diversity.
So much. I mean,
Yeah.
this country, there's so much out there, but I would say, yeah, that background probably does continue to
I'm
serve
sure.
me and the hosts of the show, who are international kids. They
Yeah.
were international kids.
Oh,
grew up,
really?
like going around the world 14
Okay.
times,
Yeah.
you know, every year. And so, yeah, they can walk into, you know, it doesn't matter where. They can walk into a house in the projects of Harlem, and they can walk into Trump Tower, and they can
Yeah.
walk in anywhere and be just as comfortable and
That's
pleasant. And yeah. So.
That's great. Yeah. I think that, that is really something about learning diversity. I know, and me, when I was a kid, I grew up, my one experience is I went from a high school of 3,000 people in Tacoma, Washington,
Yeah.
and moved to a town of 1,500 in
Yeah.
Hollis, Oklahoma.
Wow.
And that was my first integration into diversity.
Yeah.
And, since I moved from Tacoma and down to
Yeah.
LA and stuff,
Yeah.
I actually look back, even though it was
Those
small
are two
and just
extreme cultures.
two
I mean,
extremes.
two different.
But that's what taught me is like, hey, the whole world is not the same.
Yeah.
The whole world is not the little high school that I'm
and you
in
learn
or
to
whatever.
have a good time. In
Yeah,
your life.
and that is so important in our business, because how many times just in your career, my career, we're walking into a place where no
Yeah.
one else kind of goes. People of
Yeah.
our level and whatever,
Right.
unless you've got a camera or a reason to be there, you're not going to go there. And I
Right.
think you learn about that culture. You learn about the respect. You learn about respecting other people's
I think so.
opinions and cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, when we're working, it is intense.
Yes.
I mean, we post all the fun parts, but it's intense.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of pressure. There's
Yeah.
a lot of time constraints. There's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And you don't want to really spend your time with people you don't like.
No,
And
no.
usually when you do, you don't usually see them again for a
Well, you know,
while.
that's so true because, you know,
Unless
it's
an
not just
emergency.
one job. It's the job for the next 20 years. And in
Yeah.
fact, I was just thinking as you were saying that too, I remember, and this, I don't think this is, I think I had worked with you before this, and I think this might have been the first time I worked with Sam Painter
Yeah.
and you together. But we were doing Katie Couric and Justin Timberlake.
Timberlake, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in there because I think I brought a little truck up. You had yours.
Sam
I'm
had
sure
his.
Sam
Yeah.
had his. Yeah. And we came in there. You guys knew exactly what you were going to do, but we had 2 hours to set it up.
Yeah.
We were at Justin Timberlake's like fashion place in Los Angeles and like the garment district down there. And we had to take this crickety old elevator, get everything up on the third floor or something.
Yep.
Pick the spot out, then light it,
Yeah.
and it was just down. I mean, Katie Couric's time and Justin
She pulls
Timberlake's
right,
time.
yeah, they pull in, they
Yeah.
come together, and boom,
Boom.
you shoot it, and like 10 minutes later, it's done, and
Yep.
they go into their respective corners, and we're going, did we get it?
What
yeah,
just
no,
happened?
I know, I
what
know.
just happened?
That
So
is
that
really
that was very
stressful.
intense, and you know that is something where Sam and I made a great connection there. You, of course, we had a great connection, and that started the process of us all working together over
Yeah.
the
Well,
years.
Sam is also one of my
Oh,
life
Sam is
mentors.
awesome.
I mean, I've learned. I mean, he's a superstar. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Sam's great. Sam's great. So tell me, after that international experience growing up, you went to a college in Arizona.
Yeah. So I describe myself because I'm not. It's not false modesty at all. I am completely a blue collar DP.
Okay,
There's
I like that.
No formal
I like
training. I'm not
No, wait a minute,
necessarily.
no formal
No,
training.
none at all. And I'm not proud of it, but at all. I mean,
Well, you
I
should be.
wish
There's
I had
nothing to be ashamed
the
of.
privilege to go to a nice film school and still actually think of, hey, maybe I'll be one of those guys on the news that's like, look at this old grandpa, you know, just graduated college. You know, I might be that guy in film school someday. I'd really. But I didn't have any
You'd
of
be
that formal
teaching it, my friend. Please, come
well,
on.
but my path is kind of unusual, and I am proud of it, though,
Mm-hmm.
in that I went to a regular state college, University of Arizona, which is not particularly the hotbed of television or film. I mean, there is stuff, but
They have a TV there.
yeah. And so I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I got into my degree is in radio and television. I'll tell you
Okay.
how old I am,
Sure,
because
sure.
as if they would give a degree
I went to
in
radio school. I went to radio school too.
But from there, I got an internship in local news. So that's where I came out of, local news. But what I think back on now is how grateful and how much I learned in local news. Because when I was in local news, I was in search of all the elite clubs. And one of the best was called the National Press Photography Association, still is there. And still, it's just the news business isn't as big and as it was back then. But so the organization maybe is not as influential as it was, but it's there and it's still probably like at the
At the top.
shelf. And within this club, I learned all the stuff that I think that I would have learned in film school as far as visual storytelling. We learned, and competed against each other with our news stories on everything from opening shot, wide, medium, tight,
Sure.
open, close, action, reaction, sequences, and all the filmmaking tools that you learn. Super wide, everything that you can think of, and every angle and everything that you would learn. But we had this added challenge in news because we were very proud in news that you didn't stage. So not to say if I was getting a shot of you walking through the door, I might not go, hey, hang on a second and get on the other side
Of course.
and let you walk through.
Yeah.
But those little things of maybe interrupting your action when it's safe. But for the most part, our training and my training was learning how to shoot all these film techniques in real time. And I think that really served me as I went on into my career. And that served me great. And then so when it was time to go out, branch out onto my own, I'd come out to San Diego. And when it's time to buy my own gear and take the next step into freelance, my natural first jobs and my contacts led me into like NBC Nightly News or the Today Show, but I was doing mostly news.
Yeah. So let me just let me just go back a second. So when you were with this press club, you would you have like inter-competitions,
Yes.
like, and put your thing
Yes.
in, and then would your peers would come
Yes.
back and say, "I love the way you did this,"
Yeah.
or "If you try this, that shot might
They
be better."
still have this. The most famous workshop is the Oklahoma National Press Photographer Association. I don't know what the official name is,
Yeah.
but every spring they have a workshop at Oklahoma University, OU,
Okay.
in Norman.
Yep.
And it's a week-long workshop, and it's amazing. They make you prove your stories with pictures, and so it's a workshop, but also they have these quarterly competitions from everything from a spot news, a breaking news story, general news, news feature, sports, magazine, and so yeah, there would be competition. There would be regional competitions, then national competitions, and through that, I got very lucky. One year, I won enough awards to be recognized, and I won like the Miss America, the National Press Photographer of the Year.
Wow.
And
That's great. What year was that?
94.
94.
I believe that
Okay.
was 94.
Okay.
And I was a kid, and not even really understanding what I was doing. But then I spent a year speaking at all these places.
So they sent
and
you on a
showing-
speaking tour?
Oh, I mean, I had to speak at and then from speaking at some place, then you'd go asked to go speak at a station or whatever. I didn't even know what I was doing yet. But by having
think
to
you did.
look at my stories, I was able to start dissecting,
Yeah.
what I was thinking at the time. So I actually that was a big part of what who I became as a DP along the way. So that's how I learned the visual storying, the building blocks, right? I mean, when I came into freelance, another story, but I had to learn all about lighting, which I would like to talk about as well. But so my background was all news. And another story, I don't know if you want to get into how I got into reality television,
Of course,
which
of
then
course,
broke
of course.
me into becoming
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a
But
DP.
tell me when, because I know a lot of people get bogged down, or a lot of people they're so good at what they do that they don't advance.
Yeah.
And of course, the financial reward
Yes.
is for
It's
them
hard
not
to
to advance.
stretch yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
So when you say won some of these competitions, now you're being asked to speak to other people who are coming up, or news stations, something like that. What motivated you, and how did you make the transition into lighting? Tell me about that.
Well, the lighting is a completely different thing. In fact, you play a big part of that. And Sam Painter, who you mentioned,
Oh,
another,
Sam, yeah, he's a
famous
master.
LA
Yeah.
DP. I came in, I'm coming out of a business where I feel like I had a huge opportunity to practice my craft daily.
Yeah.
To shoot little miniature stories
Sure.
and prove them visually. And because, I was there during the day where people cared more about what was going on in your community. So it wasn't just big news stories and, murders and, fires and stuff like that. But it was more, and it was community stories. But my lighting kit, was my sun gun on top of my camera, and I was fancy because I found an umbrella for my Lowell light to make a soft light. And I carried around in a bat bag.
Okay.
And,
so
and I was like, and people were like, "Oh my God, who does
coming up
that
to
guy
bat,
think
yeah.
he is with the lights?"
Yeah.
But so you don't learn much.
And what stations were you working at?
In Tucson, I worked at a couple of the local stations, the NBC and the CBS.
Okay.
And then I got a job in San Diego at the CBS KFMB and worked there for a few years. And then I went to KNSD, the NBC O&O. And then when I first started freelancing with my own equipment, it was with NBC was a big,
Yeah.
really godsend to me.
Sure.
But yeah, so there were some people that were really nice to tell me what kind of tools I might use, Sam Painter being one. There's a guy at NBC called, his name is Court Waddell, and there was a correspondent named John Larson who asked that cameraman to please share with me what are some of the tools to use. 'Cause I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I knew what
How
an
do you
umbrella
know?
light
How
was.
do you know?
So,
That's
right.
a really big thing. Is you have to understand first where
Yeah.
you're at then it's what tool you use,
Yeah.
and that's if you only have one tool that you're coming with. That's sort of
I didn't know who Rembrandt was, let alone Rembrandt lighting at the time. So that's why that was
what's
my,
his day rate?
so
That's
that
what
was
I want
my
to know.
first and coming in. But
Yeah.
shows like Dateline and being the second cameraman and watching people work, I started to learn a lot.
Awesome.
Someone talking
Yeah,
here?
we just got a commercial coming up, so we'll take that and then we'll come back and find out how you mastered it, my friend. All right, we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Burnie. I own Burnie's Grip and Lighting, San Diego Grip and Lighting, and Los Angeles Grip and Lighting. You know, we pride ourselves on not only renting you the best equipment, but also giving you the best crews. And one of our core values here at Burnie's Grip and Lighting is that we give you the highest production value in the world. And remember, people used to say national, local. No, we present world-class production value on every set. We also know budgets are very tight these days, and you've got 10 hours to get what you need in the can. We move ahead, we move fast, and we know what you need. When you rent from Burnie's Grip and Lighting, you have a partner on your production for that day that is making sure you are well taken care of. So anytime you're in Southern California, give us a call at 714-609-3545, and we'll take very good care of you. See you on set. Hey everybody, we're right back here with my buddy John DeTarsio. Awesome. John was just telling us at this point in your career, you were sort of coming into lighting and as a news guy trying to learn lighting and bring up the quality.
Right, and there was a guy at NBC, long retired now, Jim, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name.
That's okay.
Jim White. But I was able to be his second cameraman on the big interviews with the correspondents, and I would watch him work, and I learned so much. Of course, first thing for me was learning how to light a person.
Yes.
You know, and three-point lighting you can explain pretty quickly, but then, you know, you vary it depending on the shape of their face, how far their eyes come out, where their hair is situated, and stuff like that. So that just kind of takes time to learn.
Yeah.
And then
I might say something too that, and this is one thing I run into, is so many people quote me that, well, it's three-point lighting, right? I go, that's where you start. What they're telling you is you need 3 lights.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
You're not. It's not. It's not a formula. You know, every face is different. Every environment is different. Every frame is different.
Every story is different. What do you want to say? I mean, how dramatically do you want to say it?
Exactly.
I mean, how old is the person?
Yeah. So even making that transition and learning how to light a face, that's so important.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I mean, it's
we
still,
always
a lot of
learn.
times I'm like, oh my gosh.
After 20 years, I'm a student of lighting, not a master.
Well, I don't know about
I'll
that.
tell you
That's
that
not
right
true.
now. I'll tell you
That's
that
not
right
true.
now. That is the truth.
And well, so then after kind of starting to be comfortable with faces and understanding certain tools, what a softer light does, what a Fresnel light, you know, then it was starting to experiment with the backgrounds and motivating the backgrounds. And then I started to learn how to frame an interview, incorporating the background and trying to tell a story that way. But that's really kind of how it started. And then shows like Dateline, like 48 Hours, I slowly started to work my way into.
Now, what was that first transition? How did you make that transition in? Because that's a pretty big step.
Yeah.
From local news to national.
Well, we won't get into the story, but I will tell you, my biggest break was someone complaining about me. I just happened to be, you know how it is in freelance, can be a little competitive. And I was just, a producer had taken a liking to me, knew I was green, but put me on his hour to work with an ace camera man. And that other cameraman didn't take a liking to me because I started to have my own ideas about lighting. And so he basically called the operations desk, complained about me, tried to get me off the show, which is his right. He was the A camera guy, and he, you know.
And a little insecure, I would say.
I don't know, but the producer who took a liking to me was just like, you know what, let's just keep John on this, put Mark on, can you find another hour, or this other guy, can you find another,
that's so great,
another episode to put him on, which they did, and that was it. Then I did it. Then I was kind of just thrown in.
Wow.
And what was so wonderful, still is wonderful, working with those shows, Dateline and 48 Hours, is they're news. But you can't just present it by showing a building, you know, like that's where the murder happened and zoom into a window. You have to recreate usually true crimes and murders without actors, you know, without the benefit of actors or renting stages or do anything like. You have to kind of do recreations through the eyes of, and it's a real collaboration with the producers and with the editors. And so along with that was I started to learn that, boy, you couldn't just shoot the shot. You have to set the mood with the lighting. And just from my learning around interviews and having like little Fresnels that just hit here and hit there, you could create a lot of mood.
Yes.
And so we started like really kind of like darkening everything and then bringing up the light and starting to paint.
So great.
And creating the mood and doing these kind of recreation things. I mean, I can't tell you how much I learned. And then we used to back then do these huge stand-ups or pieces to camera with the correspondent talking. We made huge productions, as you know. You made a lot of money helping out with these.
Yes, I did.
And we would have a jib flying over a building or whatever. And next thing you know, I need to light a whole canyon at nighttime.
Wow.
You know, and the camera's going to come flying in and then see this person's face. That's a huge challenge for some jamoke like me.
Huge challenge for anybody.
But then, you know, I call people like you who come in and have all kinds of ideas of how to make it look like the moon is doing that, and how. And so I was able to. I learned so much. You know, from you and people like you who come in and show me with all these tools that I could never have these tools, but I slowly was able to use them and, you know, use smaller tools and start to think along those lines.
Let me tell you, if I could have participated in anything, and believe me, it was in a small way by the time I met you, because you definitely knew right in there. But I remember just you telling me that rings back a story that Sam Painter, you, myself, and one other person was there. And we were doing, boy, I hope I get this right. I think of 48 Hours.
Maybe.
And it was about a murder in a home, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we were doing it, and it
think
was
I know
all
what you're
day there, you know what I mean? And new people lived there, but we were at the house where it happened and all that stuff. And I remember the last scene was we wanted to get some real dramatic shots of the reporter there for the little stand-ups that they were going to do. And we were out back by the pool. And of course, we've got an HMI into, I'm lighting her, I think, with a Kino Flow because it's dark and I can get plenty out of it. And then we wanted to get some stuff of the house, you know. Well, the murder apparently happened during the day, but we're out there at night. And
I don't remember this.
I remember we had the moon going because I had a 1200 bouncing into a big Griff or Ultra Bounce or something like that. And then you got on the other 1200 and you hit it into the pool, and then the house lights up with all that water shadow. And I remember you saying that, I don't know how we're going to use this, but I love it.
Accident. Sometimes.
Just like.
And then you go on with your life, and every time you're in that situation with a pool in the backyard, you're like, oh, I know a trick.
I know what to do. And that's really what it is. You know, that is really the thing of how you learn it.
And that time was probably a complete accident, I'm sure. If it was any good, I will tell you that was a complete accident. But then so people like you, people like the great mentors I had when I first started
let's just say it this
shows.
way. We are all dependent on our brothers and sisters in the industry. That's really what it comes down to, because I remember the same thing. When I started, I was a 40-year-old, $50 a day PA. I was as green as you could possibly get. I had never been on a set. And I remember starting to work with directors of photography, and they would show me something on the monitor, and I couldn't even see it because my eye wasn't trained.
Yeah, right.
You know,
absolutely. You can read it.
You can't read it, and you can't know its importance in the whole context. You know, and learning, just like you said, try one thing at a time,
Yeah.
then you've got that in your quiver. And
Yeah.
then another thing, that's in your knowledge base, you know,
Right.
and just a series
Yeah.
of shoots and years and like that, that's
Yeah.
what makes you good. I don't think there's a shortcut to it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I think some people do have a more natural ability
Yeah.
to understand it.
Oh yeah,
But I
And-
think
and
you
I'm
have to
sure
go through
A
it.
real film school would probably help you with that as well.
Maybe.
But I mean, I had one other really lucky thing that happened to me
Mm-hmm.
is I fell into, at the right time when DVDs and movie rentals were all the rage, and they were doing all these behind the scenes of the movies, and so you had to make all these different packages, behind the scenes of the movies, the interviews with the actors, blah blah blah, and I kind of fell into a couple of big, huge Hollywood productions.
Oh,
where
wow.
I'm on the set of Hancock for 6 weeks, just mostly watching.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil for a month.
And so you've transferred from the news, and now you've gone up
Yeah.
national, and now you're in more of an
Yeah.
entertainment
Yeah,
style.
but all I'm doing is shooting behind the scenes and interviews, but here I am watching these DPs and these lighting designers and lighting people work, and I mean,
It's big
what
time.
a lucky
Oh.
break that was for me, and it just
because you're going to college now.
Yeah,
You're
and
in a
now-
whole nother level.
Yeah, and now here I am on Catfish, where it is made to look like nothing, but it
Yeah.
is, because if it really truly was nothing, you wouldn't see anybody's face.
Right.
So, but anybody you ask anybody to watch the show, they're like, there's nothing. They just literally those poor people just walked in there, which we do.
Yes.
But I will.
I know how
might
hard
go
you
in-
work, my friend. We'll explain that. You know, one thing I'd like you to tell me is a story you just told me off camera a little while before the show, and that is the home makeover edition story.
Yeah.
And give us a real
Another lucky break.
because this is really important. This goes to show you not every decision in your career is based on financial gain, and that was your case on this.
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
so I want you to tell us that. Just give us a quick
all right.
rundown.
I'll do my very best to make it very quick. No, but again, my life has been a series of lucky breaks as I look back on it. I mean, I'm very fortunate. Paths come, and somehow on that one, it seems like I took the right one, or something.
You did.
Something good happened. When I was doing a lot of 48 Hours, there was a very ambitious, very amazing, smart producer. His name's Tom Foreman, who I happened to, connect with on a story, and he took a liking to me and my soundman Dustin Edo, and he started taking us around the country, and we were doing stories with him for a while, and he ended up, he had bigger ambitions. He was just a kid. Coming out to LA, he left CBS, he came out to LA, and long story, but he ends up working for Endemol, which does like Amazing Race. They're a big production company in LA.
Yeah.
And he was a show pitcher, which I don't think is particularly a big job. I mean, I think there's several of these people like pitching shows and making
He's
scissor
pitching
rolls.
to networks all
Yeah,
the time.
so he was doing that for a couple of years and never had any money, but he had great big ideas.
Yeah.
And he would call me, and I would call upon my soundman Dustin, and he would say, "Will you please? I got a few bucks here," and we would shoot sizzle reels for him, and
So you would
little
go out and shoot his
presentations.
little ideas and stuff, and he'd pay you under rate and stuff.
Well,
and
he
then-
would do what he could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he says,
And-
"I got this. Can you help?"
yeah, and if not, he would have to be out there with his own camera and probably be less sellable in the end.
Sure.
And so we did that for a couple of years, and one day he gives me a call, and it's literally like 2 days' notice. Hey, I have a job. And of course, I have already booked like one of the greatest jobs. I'm going to, me and Dustin are going to Australia for like almost a month.
Wow.
And I couldn't wait. And he's like, I got a job. I'm like, Tom, I can't help you out on this one. And he goes, okay, well, I completely understand, but ABC is actually committed to this show. We got Sears. We're going to blow these houses up. It's going to be so much fun. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll have a good time. I will, good luck. Good luck on this one.
Yeah.
And I go off, I come back, and it's Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And I mean, the first show goes, and he explodes. The show
Wow.
completely explodes.
Wow.
And anyways, he eventually starts having me and Dustin do a lot of those for the first couple of seasons. When they blew up the house, the family would be displaced, and they'd send them out to some exotic vacation. while the house was being remade. And so we got to go out and do that.
So you got the vacation
Yeah.
shot. Oh, man.
So anyways-
Boy, everybody was out in the dust and the
Yeah,
sawdust
we would
and
do
the
the
saws.
That's right.
going
We'd
down.
go on vacation and watch them sitting at the pool.
Oh, my gosh.
But so then of course, Tom became a huge star in Los Angeles to this day. Of course, he still is. He's still a young man, but he started making his own deals after he left, as you would imagine. You
Yeah.
know, after and
He's on his own
and
now,
then
yeah.
he was just still didn't forget me. John, why don't you come and do this? And why don't you come and do that? And I remember his first big CBS show on his own after that. He was trying to convince me to be a cameraman on his reality. I'm like, I'm not a cameraman for reality anymore. I could talk to him like that because he was my friend.
Sure.
And he goes, look, CBS doesn't want you at all. They want me to go get the Survivor guys. They don't want you.
Yeah.
I want you.
Yeah.
And so please just do this. And then after that, then you're going to have a credit. Then we can give you jobs that you might like a little bit
Yeah,
more.
right.
And sure enough, that's what happened. And I've just been doing reality ever since. And Catfish is one of his shows.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I have it,
Yeah.
still kind of, I don't see him anymore because he spends his days
So
talking to
Catfish is one of his shows. And he's the
well,
is
he
that
is
right?
his production company. He teamed up with another. I can't speak really to this because I don't really know. It's just what I
Okay.
observe, so I don't
Sure.
really know the inside stories. But one of the other associate producers at 48 Hours ended up working at MTV.
Okay.
Tom, his company bought the rights to the Catfish, the movie, the documentary.
Okay.
And Tom had this idea, Tom and of course the Catfish people, the original people
Sure.
that made the movie. Maybe there's a series here. I don't know whose idea it was, but
Right.
but Tom knew this lady at MTV who, again, from 48 Hours. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm oversimplifying the story and not giving the right credit
No,
to the
but
right people.
that's good.
But they came up with this great
They went for
great
it.
idea, and then one of the guys I was working with, a producer who was working for Tom's company, who happened to be also a star in his own right. He created the show Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Okay.
And he and I
then-
had done a
Can
couple.
we say his name?
Yeah, David Metzler.
David
You know
Metzler.
David.
I know
Yep.
David, yeah.
And who's also a big fan of yours.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of his.
And David, with his experience from Queer Eye and incorporating so much of the realness, there's a lot of reality that gets
it's
sucked out of reality
amazing. It
because
totally.
of all of the rules and regulations and stuff.
Well, so much
But-
of it has to be recreated.
Yeah.
So
But-
much of it has
yeah.
to be staged. I mean, that's just the
But
fact.
these guys, because of Tom's background, because of David's background, figured out a way to make a real reality
Right.
show. Again, I mean,
Right. Right.
and I don't know how they do it. but,
Well, you
but
know
they-
what?
But that's I'm sorry to
No,
to
go.
keep going, but this is where I wanted that story to go. My background now intersects with Catfish to where
You're a
somehow
co-star
ended up
on
really-
Catfish, dude. You're on every show.
I am.
Yeah.
I like to say that I'm
Yeah.
the second co-host of the show.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I say that to the guys all the time.
I know,
They're
you
always like,
give 'em a little jab
like a lot
there,
of
huh?
times I'll say something because we film for hours, and they're like, say they're doing their investigation, and they say something, and I'll say something from behind camera, and they're always like, hey, you're not on the show? Who's here? It's us. You're not on the show. And I'm like, yes, I am.
Don't break the fourth wall.
Yes, I am. I guess you are.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Just before I go on, let me just give a shout out to Dustin Ito, too.
Yeah.
Because Dustin, I follow
He's a
him
star.
on Facebook. He's a great guy. I've worked with him many
Greatest
times.
sound man in the business.
Yeah, he's super. But that's and that kind of brings us to Catfish
Yeah.
a little bit. I don't know if you remember this, but I went somewhere and we had a phone call about something. I think maybe you were calling me for work, or I was talking to you about something I might have needed or something like that. But I remember this vividly. Actually, I was at another studio. I was in the parking lot, and I was, how busy we get.
Yeah, sure.
So you're working out of your car. You're going from here to place. And I start talking to you, so I said, I'm taking 5 minutes here, parking, I'm going to talk to John. I stayed parked for 45 minutes because you were telling me, and this is before Catfish, you were hired on the show but had not worked the show. And you were explaining to me how the producers were setting the show up. And it blew my mind.
It still blows my mind that they were able to do it.
They were able to keep you out of the loop until you discovered for yourself. That's amazing to me.
And to be honest, they don't know either.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know
when
which
you get
way,
there, they haven't.
They don't know. Obviously, there's things that have to be done that we don't open a door and someone shows up with a gun and blows the crew away. So there's great precautions that are taken. However, when the guys open up the laptop at the beginning of the show, no one knows what's going to happen. It depends what the guys decide to do once they reach out to these people and where they're going to go and who they're going to talk to and who they're going to call and how they interpret what's going to happen. There may be a team of people saying, oh, well, we think that they're going to think this or we think they're going to think that, so let's get ready for this. Every time. They never do what people think that they're going to do it because they interpret it the way they... But that's what makes the show so special.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been on, we call it the reveal when we finally catch up to the person in the show and they come usually walking out of the door. And what we started to learn making the show was if they're not where we think they are and they come driving up or something like that and everyone's caught off guard and the whole crew's kind of going, what's going on, what's going on? The more screwed up we get, or if I say, just please, let's just not have this happen where I have this white wall back here and I have, you know, the darkest skinned person in the world. As long as it doesn't happen there. And then of course
that's where it
always
happens.
Does. And what David Metzler always says to me, you know, he always, in the beginning, we always just worried every time that happened, but you can't take it back. You can't go, wait, retake, because this is real. And as they edited more and more shows, David was like, and he still says, the more I screw you up, the more the real the show gets.
That's
you know,
something.
and so I sometimes feel like he's playing a dirty joke on me every time. You know, he may know more than I think he knows, but you know.
But you know what? There's so much truth to that. There's so much truth to that, and we get so close to like thinking, oh, it has to be this way, it has to look that way, all that. There's a lot you can forget of that. You know what I mean? Now it depends on the part or whatever, but I think we got another break coming up. Let's get back to that. And I know you want to see my next commercial.
I do.
I know you're psyched about that. But all right, we'll be right back.
Burnie's workshop is fantastic. Burnie's workshop is awesome. Burnie's workshop is insightful.
Burnie, in one word, passionate maybe. You can tell he really cares a lot.
Burnie is a badass.
He's a great teacher. He has great stories, and I would recommend this to anyone. Not only someone like me who's starting day one, but you know, I feel that in any profession, as you sharpen your sword, it always gets sharper.
I think the best thing about this is the access to understanding how to run your business, how to actually be in this filmmaking industry and make money at it. Coming to this workshop, I think, is what actually gets you the tools to understand how to do that, how to get out there and sell yourself.
I thought that was really cool. I thought, he knows all the tricks in the book, and he knows how to show that to us and actually demonstrate it so we actually know what he's talking about.
I really like the hands-on experience. That's something that you don't find a lot. That's something you have to go on set a lot to just appreciate.
I know this is lighting seminar, but it's not only talk about lightings. He also share his business experience, personal experience, and guide us to what we should do, what kind of personality we should have in this business.
His stories, I think that kind of say everything in a few example stories that he gives out from time to time.
I would recommend this workshop to anybody who just spread into the industry, people who just don't know the swing of it. A lot of this stuff they don't teach you in film school.
I deal with a lot of freelancers every day, a lot of peers that I went to school with, a lot of professionals in the field, and they all need to take this class because it puts you on the next level, on the next playing field.
Burnie's a great guy. Burnie's really authentic. Like everything he learns, everything he teaches, the way he handles himself, the way he deals with other people, he's a one-of-a-kind guy. Someone I've never come across before in the industry, and someone I hope to emulate and hope that there are more people like him out there that can help.
Hey, we're back with John DeTarsio, and we got our first question here from Sam Painter. Sam Painter asked, how do you work so much and still look so good? Well, Sam, it's fairly easy. You know, there's no, oh, that was for John. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
Sam. I'm not going to do
No,
it.
you can't do that. Don't do that. But I think Sam gets the idea. We got your questions. We love it. Ask more, Sam. Ask more. Come on.
You know, he is the doppelganger to Cumberbatch.
Oh, yes.
Someday
Yeah.
you have to have him in and then show old pictures of him and pictures of Cumberbatch, and it is amazing. Anyways,
Really?
People don't know Sam,
I
don't
know.
know this.
Sam,
so it's
Sam
inside
is really a great, great guy. He's somebody I
Sometimes.
really admire. And yeah, unless he owes you money. No, Sam's
Enough
a great
about
guy.
Sam.
Sam's a great guy. And you know, Sam is funny. I just bring this up real quick. I remember Sam, he goes, how did you get your start? You know what I mean? And he goes, oh, I did OJ. He goes, I bought 5 cameras and a house doing OJ, you know. So
well, Sam comes from real training, though, too. You know,
Yes,
he really is a student of the art. I mean, so many times I'll buy gear.
Oh,
I'll
you
be like,
always
what do
talk to Sam.
What
Sure.
do I do with this?
Yeah,
And
no,
he'll
I hear
explain
ya.
it to me.
I hear you. I hear you. You know what? But I'll tell you something. This is this comes up like you're on the road a lot.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
It
I
is.
know. I've just been married for the first time in my life for 3 years. You know,
Yeah.
and she's
beautiful.
sweet. She's gorgeous. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
You are.
But you know how often I'm gone? I mean, I'm at home more than I was before. You know.
No,
but
I do.
what is that like for the family? I know your wife is
Dee,
Dee is such a sweetheart, a great author, and you got 2 grown kids.
Grown kids,
now?
both in the business, yeah.
Tell me, how has all these years and you being in the business affected that?
Well, Dee. I mean,
Let's
she's
face
held
it, it's
together.
the woman that is
But,
the strongest
yeah,
person
I
in
mean,
the family.
First of all, it was always just normal because I've been traveling their whole lives. Normal for them. This was like
Normal
a
for them.
normal family.
Yeah.
That's not to say when they went through their teenage years that they didn't use it against me
Of course.
when they wanted to. Like, what do you know, Dad? You're never home
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
And it was my wife that would slap that down and go, oh, come on.
Yeah,
You know, they know how to get you to do whatever you
they're
want.
they're jabbing it in. a
But
little bit.
it's difficult, but there's ups and downs, and I guess it's what prism you're going to look at it through. Yes, I missed things that I cannot get back. I missed so many Little League games, so many school presentations, but all that stuff messed me up. They're fine.
Right.
But what I was able to get, because even if I travel on a heavy year, 220 days of the year.
Whoa, what? How many?
Like
220 days a year you're traveling?
Probably consistently over 200, well, not probably, I know this, over 200 days for the last 20 years. Each year.
Unreal.
But what that means is I have 165 days a year at home where I was able to take the kids to school, pick them up after school, go sit at practice, and do things that other dads weren't able to do. Because maybe there were a lot of dads.
When you were there, you were able to be there.
Yeah. So our time together was always quality time, and we did do some really fun vacations during their time growing up. But we would do like, I'm in San Diego for 4 days. Let's go down to the Hotel Del Coronado and spend 2 days just family in a resort. You know.
Yeah.
We did a lot of those little things.
A lot of fun stuff.
But it really was, I think, growing up, and we're still very, very close, I mean, yes, I was gone, and yes, I missed a lot of stuff. They were fine. I mean, it didn't scar them, I'm saying.
No,
it
they're
scarred
great
me.
kids. Yeah.
I can't have those days.
You're disappointed because you're not there.
And
with
I
them.
wish so much that I could have done so much more with them, but I can't take that back. But on the upside, we did have real, the days home, I didn't do other stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And like you said, it was rougher on you probably than it was on them. And it's just like when you grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up moving a lot, different places, but it had its advantages. And
Exactly.
That's probably how they look at it, I'm
Well,
sure.
yeah, like I said, it was never unusual for them. and we talked about it.
Yeah,
You know?
no, and that's, I think, the most important
Yeah.
thing. Is I find that with my wife too. I says, honey, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gone all this weekend. I was gone all last weekend. I'll probably be gone all the weekend after that, you know.
And now my wife, like, it takes about 4 days, and she's like, "You got someplace to go?"
Oh boy, my wife's much
Get out of
quicker
my
than that.
kitchen,
Hey,
will you?
isn't the weekend over? Take off. Yeah, no kidding. But it's funny. It's funny how you deal with that, and I know here's the problem: is it's really rough on a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
I think
It's a killer.
if your relationship is not strong
Yeah.
and you're always working on your
Yeah.
relationship, I think that's something that you really have to do.
Yeah.
You have to really be conscious of that other person.
Well,
you know?
you're always working on your relationship. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. 20,
doesn't
30
matter.
years, you still got to do that.
And then whether you're 9 to 5 or on the
Yeah.
road all the time, you still better be
Right.
working on that.
And the other thing too was I had to learn, and my wife still teases me about this. You know, it's still kind of an ongoing joke that never ends. Is she says every time I come back off the road, and this was really bad when my kids were small.
Yeah.
You know, I'd take about one afternoon, and she'd go, "Stop directing." Because, you know, I'm out on the road and I'm like, got to make 200 decisions before noon.
Right.
You know, like, move that, do that, put the camera there, do
Right.
this, do that. And
Right.
I'd come home and I'd start doing that. She's like, stop it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And don't screw up all this work I've been doing for 2 weeks.
You know what? I should have your
and I
wife,
just
my wife
learned
call
to-
your wife.
I
Yeah.
had to learn how to dial myself back every time.
Dial back in. You know, it's funny when I got married, it's the same thing too. Is I had been a lifetime of me running something. You know,
Exactly.
even before I
Yep.
got into this business, me running some. So I come into a marriage and goes, hey, we need to put this in this drawer. That's not working. These plates should go up here. This should, you know, like, and she's just looking at me
Yeah.
going, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
How are you?
You have no idea what you're doing. And she's right. I didn't.
Yeah. I still need a little transition when I come home off a long trip.
Yeah, right. No, you know what?
Or she has to remind me to.
Well, you know what, John? This business, if you're successful at it, is so intense, and
Yeah.
it takes all of your focus.
Yeah.
This is not 90% focus.
Yeah.
This is 100% live, eat,
Yeah.
breathe, the whole thing, no
Yeah.
matter what level you're on, if you're successful.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's really different, say, on a 60 Minutes or Dayline shoot as opposed to a reality show or any kind of a production, which is set more like on the structure is like on a movie, to where there's a
Right.
lot of different jobs, a lot of people that have their lanes.
You're sort of factory
And someone
work
like me
then,
gets
yeah.
really spoiled really fast because,
Yeah.
you know, I could say, boy, I'm really thirsty for a coffee, and boom, someone's handing me a coffee.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, because they want you to just do do
They
your
don't want
job.
you to
They
have
don't
to
want you
think about the
thinking
coffee. Yeah, they
it.
just want you to keep
Yeah,
on,
so you
keep
come,
on going.
So I come home and I'm like, boy, I could really use coffee. And my wife will go like, me too.
Yeah, I'll have one. Thanks. I'll have one too. Yeah, rightfully so. Rightfully so. You know what? I think we have a tape. Is that right, Travis? Do we got a little tape of John and the guys? Okay, this is something from Catfish, and I want to show it because I think we go back to that, and it's such a fun part of what you do and how you're incorporated in the show. Let's roll that, Travis.
Oh my.
He's carrying you there.
Well, you know, is my voice on right now? Okay, so this is just coming out of a commercial break. And, you know, we're just going up to knock on someone's house to sit down and talk to them. And I was up perched on top of the stairs. I usually walk in behind them. So I walk up and Neve decides to show me how strong he is. Picks me up and carries me down the stairs, then back up the stairs. Thank
That's
you for
classic.
that. And then, not to be outdone, I had to. prove
You
that
had
I
to
could
show
carry
him your
as well.
virility, yeah.
And you should have seen all the senior staff there were like, "Don't break Neve.
You can get
You
broken.
drop Neve.
Yeah, you drop
Yeah.
him, we're in trouble.
But that's just kind of the spontaneous
But that, you
stuff
know
that
what,
these
that
guys
is so
do.
refreshing to see too. There's a feeling that, and there are a couple of young guys, and you guys are obviously very good friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type of fun you can
These
have
guys,
on a show.
I can't say enough about these guys. I mean, how much I've learned from them. They both come from very privileged lives. They've had very privileged lives. They're very fortunate just by how they were, what the families they were born into.
Sure.
But it's such an honor to know people like this who are raised to know the difference between good and bad and giving and understanding the responsibility of having education and having privilege and having and understanding that you got to use this and make the world a little bit better. And that's who these guys really are. I mean, they can get on my nerves. I mean, and we all get on each other's nerves.
You're on the road that much together. That's going to be a big thing.
Such an honor and a privilege to know these guys, everybody on this crew. But I've learned so much about just being a human being from these guys.
Oh, that's
I'm
really
very,
great to
very,
hear.
very
That's
proud to know them.
really great to hear. Usually
But
you
we
hear
have fun.
stories like you're not allowed to look at them, you know what I mean? Which I think is
these guys.
overblowing. But that is great to hear, because this is all about who you want to spend 10 hours with, right?
Yeah.
You know, or in your case, 14 or 15.
Yeah. When these guys, when we first started doing the show, we didn't really talk about it, and I think there were some hesitation because, you know, Neven made a very popular, famous movie.
Sure.
And, you know, not really knowing everything that the producer was doing. Obviously, he couldn't know anything about the story. I'm sure he had some unease. Yet, we did the first couple episodes, and I think we all kind of knew that there was something special happening. It was kind of a perfect storm. It was we had the right everything. It seemed like the right hosts to tell the right story at the right time in history. The right producer who figured out how to make this real. You know, the right executive, the right network, the right everything. But we didn't really know. And we're still shooting season 1, and like the first 2 episodes go, and MTV is like doing cartwheels and sending us congratulatory emails and like, you're doing great, and you know, we don't know. We're just our little cell moving around. And then like after like the second one aired, started walking through airports, and people are like, catfish, and you know, autographs, and I mean, and now you can't go anywhere without kids. I mean, we just recently were in Texas, and we were shooting in a house, and we walked out. There were 150 people on the street.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, wanting pictures. It's incredible. But what's so great with these guys is because of who they are and their background. They're amused by it, and I'm sure they like it, but they don't need it.
Yeah,
you know, they don't.
Yeah. They're not living for it.
And what's so wonderful is I think, to all of us, we have the same reaction that everywhere you go, people are just nuts to meet these 2 guys. It's just says so much of like, wow, what we're doing actually matters.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the show does matter, because the show is really, you know, to a casual watcher, you think, oh, it's all about who's going to be on the other side of the door and the very Jerry Springer moment. Are they going to slap each other? But the show is really, it's about acceptance, about sadness, about life, birth, fear. It's all the big ticket items.
It's everything
really
you'd want in a show. Yeah.
And that's what, when people come up in a restaurant and interrupt while they're eating, and always what you leave with is like, oh my gosh, we're really doing something that people care about. Some people care about.
Yeah. No. Well, my wife does. You know, I told her I'm doing John DeTarsio from Catfish. She goes, you are?
Yeah.
That was the biggest news she had ever heard.
She thought you said Neve.
She knew it was you. She knew it was you. Hey, you remember how I told you an hour disappears?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
We're here. How does somebody get a hold of the great John DeTarsio?
Oh, well. It's easy. I have a website that's just my name, John DeTarsio.
Okay. Spell it for us, will you?
Well, John is J-O-H-N, then my last name is DeTarsio. And I mean, that's easy. On there you can find me.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And what are you off to next? Because 200 days, you're probably leaving from the airport.
Well, I have a pilot I'm shooting in about a week that is going to be an Amazon project. I'm very, very excited about that.
Great.
And it's going to be, well, the pilot's going to be here, but if I'm so lucky to be on the show, it's going to be 3 countries. And it's going to, I guess that's about all I should really say about that for now. And then later this month, I've got like a 6-day shoot for 60 minutes, in which I have nothing. I know nothing about it other than I'm going to be at like NASA. And
Oh, nice.
it's going to be
I
really,
know,
really
you
cool.
go to all these
Yeah.
locations with 60 Minutes, and I believe
60
you spend a day with, or a few days with the president of Brazil.
60
and,
Minutes
you know.
is like so incredible. It's scary because it's a different structure, and it's like the moment you described with Justin Timberlake, except with the president of Brazil.
Yeah.
And they come in for a couple of minutes, and if you do one thing wrong, you've just really screwed up.
You screwed up big time.
So I'm always in fear.
It'd be a good time to give a shout out to Dennis Dillon too,
Oh,
who I know
definitely.
we've worked with
He's-
on 60
he's
Minutes
one
as
of
well.
the-
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
Greatest.
thank you, John,
Thank
so
you.
much, brother. So
Thank
much.
you so
Thanks for
much.
coming in. And
Such
thank
an
you.
honor. Such a
Thank you.
privilege.
Thanks for coming into Burnie's Applebox today. We'll see you next Friday at 2 o'clock. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. Cut. That's a wrap.